Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension here in Hernando County, and welcome to our class this morning. I'm here with our Master Gardener, Rita Grant, and she's going to be talking all about easy-to-grow native Florida wildflowers. So this is a very popular topic. Hopefully, there's a lot of people tuning in and watching this. Now, if you are watching this live and you have a question, feel free to go ahead and type your question in the comments, and we're going to save them up until the very end, and then we're going to go back through and go ahead and show your question on the screen and take care of answering it. So I can see that we have a number of people already watching us. Now, if you're watching this after the fact on either YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and if you have a question, ask it in the comments. Also, we try to check the comments on all of our different videos and classes after the fact as closely as we can, and we'll get your question answered for you one way or the other. I am not the expert on native wildflowers. Rita is. That's why we have her here today and not just me. So we'll go ahead and turn this over to Rita. Teresa, if you want to help with go ahead and screen sharing, we have a little presentation here for you. And I will turn the screen over to Rita Grant.
Well, okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. We are going to talk about easy-to-grow Florida native wildflowers. A lot of the information I'm going to give you today came from a publication produced by the Florida Wildflower Foundation. And they do have a publication that you can pick up at the extension office. Give them a call first, obviously, before you try and come over. And they'll take care of it. It's a lot of really good information. Firstly, we're going to talk about proper planting. Right plant, right place. That is the most important thing no matter what you're putting into your landscape. I can't stress that enough. If you have a native plant, and it needs shade, please don't put it in the sun because that's the only area you have, because it won't work. So you want to be careful about that. Know your zone. It's very important as well. You cannot take a plant that grows way up in the panhandle and bring it down here and hope that it's going to take care of itself. Also, we normally do not amend the soil. If you have a plant that you need to amend the soil, it is not the right plant, right place. So remember that. Know your source when you're ordering seeds. If you're going to order seeds, please don't get them from a source in Texas or Michigan, because that's not good. You're wasting your money. You want to get them from a source in Florida, which is the Florida Wildflower Foundation. I'm going to give you all that information at the end. And beware of the free plants you get from your native. You know, it's like when they have tons of tomatoes. You want to be very careful, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to give you one of the very invasive ferns, which is Boston fern. And it will take over your landscape. And that is all that you'll have. So you want to be very careful about that. Enough preaching, I think. So we'll go to the first one that we're going to look at is butterfly milkweed. Oh my God, it is the best plant. The pictures don't really do it justice. The orange is so vibrant when you see it. Like it says on the slide here, the height does differ sometimes, but it does need full sun and well-drained sandy soil. If it sits in wet soil, it's not going to survive. You want to make sure there's your zone thing. Attracts butterflies and bees, and you want to make sure that you can propagate it from seed. I've heard of people doing it from cuttings. I've never tried it in my nursery. Maybe it would work, but I don't think so. So if in this thing today, if our program today, if you see a plant that you say, oh, I have to have that, check the information first and make sure that it's something that's going to be happy in your landscape, because if it's not happy, you're not going to be happy either. So we've talked about this one. This is Asclepias tuberosa, if you need the scientific name. Some of them I will not pronounce because I can't. So we'll just go with that. Rose milkweed. Asclepias incarnata. Absolutely beautiful plant when it's blooming. And it likes moist to wet soil. So if you have an area in your yard where you can put it, please do. It attracts many species of butterflies and for the nectar, and it's the monarch's host plant. They love it. Propagate this from seed as well. And yes, I have tried doing cuttings, and they did fabulous. So if you want to try that, that's great. I always tell people, try and grow things on your own, too. It's very rewarding. The next one is swamp milkweed, and it's Asclepias perennis, and it likes it wet. So if you're going to put it somewhere, please don't put it where it's going to be just full sun and dry, because it will fall over dead. The nectar and the host plant to the monarch and the queen butterflies. I checked mine this morning, and I have about 6 queen caterpillars eating it all up again, which is fine. That's why it's out there. And other insects. And if the insects are going to it, the birds are very happy, because the birds collect the insects and they eat them. So that's really good. I haven't tried doing this one from cuttings, but it does propagate readily from seed. And you might want to try all 3 of them if you have the area for them. The next one is the golden aster. This is a beautiful plant. There are other varieties. In Florida, there's 11 native species of the Chrysopsis. Hopefully I said that right, if anyone is a connoisseur of native plants. There are 2 species commonly encountered in zones 8 to 9B. The Maryland golden aster, and another one is the coastal plain. And that kind of gives you a hint of where it should grow, too. The Maryland one is the most available species sold by native plant nurseries. And you always want to make sure that it's a native plant nursery. Some of them have what they call natives, and it may not be. So you want to be very careful for that. False rosemary. Florida has 6 native species, and of the 6, all but 1, Conradina canescens, are endangered or threatened. Conradina is in the mint family, so it's not the rosemary that you would cook with. So you want to make sure you know that too. It is a beautiful little shrub, and it blooms pretty much summer to fall, and maybe even longer if you don't get a frost. It's a really pretty plant. Propagate this from cuttings. It grows very easily from cuttings. Tickseed. Tickseed is one of my favorite. This is the native, this is the Florida state plant, Coreopsis. And that pertains to all of the species of Coreopsis, not just one in particular. The license plate has a picture of a Coreopsis flower on it, and I'm not really sure which one it is. 14 native species of tickseed. Leavenworth's tickseed is the most common, which is the picture I have here. And it is a beautiful little plant. It attracts butterflies and other pollinators. And this propagates readily from seed. And the reason they call it tickseed is because the seeds look like little ticks, not because it attracts them, which is what someone asked me once. I said, no, that's not what it does. Twinflower. Twinflower is really beautiful. It's a nectar plant for butterflies. The common buckeye butterfly, which is in that slide there under the flower. It's a really pretty butterfly. It eats both the leaves and the flowers. Leafcutter, bumble, and honeybees are also attracted to the flowers. Propagate stem cuttings, or you can divide clumps. So you would dig it up and you would cut part of it off and then put the rest of it back in the ground and then spread it around. I don't think it grows very well from seed. You can propagate it from stem cuttings or the dividing the clumps, which is really easy to do. If you don't know how to do that, you can always call the extension office, and one of the master gardeners will tell you how to do that. Blanket flower. My favorite picture of the blanket flower is the one on the bottom there on the right, where it's growing in a parking lot. Hot as can be, and it's still sitting there blooming. It just looks absolutely beautiful. It's known also as firewheel and Indian blanket, and there's 2 native species. The other species, which is that single flower down the bottom, is called lance-leaf blanketflower. It's also an aggressive reseeder, which most of us don't care about if it reseeds in our gardens, but if it gets too much, it's going to overtake your whole garden. And you want variety in there, so you want to be careful for that. But it will grow just about anywhere, as you can see that in that picture. Very hardy plant. Tampa Verbena, another beautiful little plant. There's 3 species of natives in Florida. Beach verbena and Tampa verbena are state listed as endemic and endangered. Endemic means that it doesn't grow anywhere else but in Florida. And the endangered means that it's probably losing some of its habitat because of construction or whatever reason it's losing it. So we want to protect most of the ones that are like that. Verbena species may hybridize as well. So if you have one that you got at the big box store and then you put in the native, you may end up with no native. So you always have to be very careful for that. This plant is available at native nurseries. Seeds aren't available. They're not collected right now. I buy them at a native nursery when I want one because I can't propagate them. Dune sunflowers, there's another one that likes it dry and sunny. You want to make sure that you don't put it where it's going to get too much water, which is what I did the first time I put it in. And I suffered for that because it died. It was in an area where I never saw it get too much water before, and it flooded. So it was a goner. Propagate it from seed. If you let the seed heads dry out on the plant, it will do it for you. It does get a little leggy after a while, so you may need to cut it back and let the little seedlings that have dropped and started to come up take its place. And it's a really pretty plant, and you really love having it around. There's 2 species. One grows on the East Coast, one grows on the West Coast, and I'm not sure that anyone knows the difference, but there must be someone out there. I am not an expert on native plants. I know a lot of stuff, but that's not one thing I'm an expert at. That's my little dog, and she loves to go outside and sniff the flowers with me. St. Andrew's cross is a really hardy little shrub if you put it into your landscape. It's really pretty. It's just one of the 31 species of natives in Florida. And there are several on the state, again, and federally endangered list. Some species may be toxic to livestock. And so you really want to research your plant. You don't want to walk into a nursery or to one of the big box stores and say, oh, wow, that's pretty. I'm going to take that home. You have no idea where it needs to go. You don't know if it needs sun or shade or water or whatever, but it was pretty and more than likely didn't survive, and you wasted some money because you put that in. So you really have to stop and think. Some species, like I said, are toxic. The caterpillars of the gray hair-streaked butterfly, which is an adorable little butterfly, they feed on the seed capsules, and you don't have to worry because there's plenty of them on the plant, so they're not going to eat them all up. And this too can be propagated from seed. And the little seedlings that come up around it, you can dig those up and put those somewhere else in your landscape too. It's very easy. Liatris, beautiful plant. It's one of my favorites. I think most of them are my favorites. The Liatris, this is the blazing star. And 4 native species are in Florida. One is Chapman's, which is Liatris chapmanii, which is in that picture. Dense gayfeather, which is Liatris spicata. Evergreen, which is tenuifolia. And graceful, which is Liatris gracilis. They all kind of look the same and put out the same color flowers, but they do have different needs as far as the old right plant, right place. And they do grow easily from seed. I'm not sure. I think the ones growing out in the wild do come back from the old plants, so those would be perennials. Most plants would come back just from the seeds around them, so we still call those perennials. Spotted bee balm. This is a beautiful plant. And if you're out driving around, there are some that are growing by the side of the road. And it is just a patch of them. And it's so pretty with that color. You want to take a drive out and spot these plants. They're really easy to spot. Bee balm attracts lots of butterflies and other pollinators. I see bees all over mine. Hummingbirds also use it. You've never seen my hummingbirds go to it. That doesn't mean they don't do it, but the couple of the books I looked in did say that they use it. It is drought resistant. There's really not too much you can do to this plant unless you leave it in water. It is propagated from seed. And let's see, it smells like oregano. And if you cut back the older plants each year after blooming, it makes them come back fuller because they do come back from the old plant. Silver-leaved aster is it's just a really pretty little plant. It's also called grass-leaved aster or narrow-leaf silkgrass, which is one of the common names that a lot more people call it by. It has beautiful silvery foliage and would work well in a flower bed with Liatris and tropical sage. I love those colors. So you'd have red and the purple and the yellow. Hopefully that's not too much of a mix for everyone, but I think that would be pretty. It propagates very easily from seed. The most important thing you can do for your seed collection is to make sure that the seeds have matured on the plant. Don't cut them when it's still green because you don't like dead flowers on your plants. Otherwise, you're cutting off your seeds for the next season if you need them. So you want to make sure until that they turn brown and that it's a little brown down the stem that they're on. Then you can collect them. And you want to keep them in how I collect my seeds is never when they're wet, because if you do it when they're wet and then you put them in a jar or something like that, they're going to get all moldy. So you want to make sure you try not to collect them when they're wet. If you have to, put them on some paper towels out on the counter and let them dry on their own. It's very important. If you cut the seeds off too soon, they haven't matured, they won't grow for you. So it's pretty simple. Wait until they've matured already on the plant. Black-eyed Susan is a really pretty one. Rudbeckia species are all commonly known as black-eyed Susans. So they can be one species or another. Seeds can be collected after the flowers have finished blooming and dried. If you want to collect them, you don't have to collect all of them. You can leave some out so that they can attract some insects, or they can burst and go onto the ground and spread themselves. It's a lot less maintenance, and I love it that way because I'm kind of a lazy gardener. I do a lot, but I'm really lazy when it comes to that. So this is a good one to propagate from seed. There's another one called a sandhill Rudbeckia, and that one likes total sun all the time. It's really happy with that. It's another one that you can propagate from seed. Most of them are not happy in pots. They would rather be in the ground because they get their little roots pinched if they're in a pot for too long. We want to be nice to our plants because they're nice to us. Wild petunias, they're very pretty. They just come up all on their own. They're really pretty. There are several species of Ruellia in Florida, and there's a lot of disagreement as to which ones are native and which ones are not. One that I know is Mexican petunia. I really dislike this plant. That picture that I have there is from my doctor's office, and he had Mexican petunia growing in that flower box all the way around the building. I went into his office and I had my visit. And when I was leaving, I said, I noticed you have Mexican petunia out there. And he said, oh, is that wrong? I said, yes, that is extremely wrong. I went back for a new appointment the next week. It was all gone, which made me very happy. And he's going to put in some native petunias, because he liked the color. But Mexican petunia is not something you really want to add to your landscape. The Center for Aquatic and Invasive Plants call it a Cat 1 invasive. The university lists it as not recommended, They're not saying you can't have it. They're just saying it's not recommended, which should tell you that maybe I shouldn't put that in. It's not a great wildlife plant. So if you're looking for a lot of wildlife for insects and stuff, it doesn't really attract that many. So you don't really need to put that in your yard. And I would suggest taking it out, which is something I usually never suggest anyone do. But, you know, everyone likes the plants that they like. So just get rid of it. Sorry. Sage. There's 3 native species of sage in Florida. Tropical sage, which is the red one, which is an absolute beauty. Hummingbirds come to it constantly, and butterflies. You really can't have a better plant. If you put one in your yard for your butterflies, you'll have about 121 plants next season because it reseeds like crazy. If one comes up someplace you don't want it, just dig it up and put it somewhere else. Because it's really a very good plant to have in your landscape. The wireleaf sage comes up pretty much all on its own. I've never deliberately planted one. It has beautiful basal leaves that have purple strands in them. They're really pretty. It's mostly a ground cover, and it blooms 2 or 3 times a year. And it's really pretty, and the bees like it. If you have any of it, you should really leave it there unless it's in the way. You can always dig it up and move it, but it is an excellent little plant. If you come to my nursery and you want one, I'll dig one up for you. The next one is creeping or southern river sage, which is really pretty. It has little, I believe it's little blue flowers on it, and it likes it moist and semi-shaded woodlands. So it has a specific place that it likes to grow, and you don't want to get it and put it out front of your house because it won't last for very long. And it is a pretty little plant. The next one we'll talk about is skullcap, and I love to say the scientific name. It's Scutellaria integrifolia. It's one of my favorites. It is a sweet little plant. It kind of blooms late spring and into the summer. It has little tiny seeds in it, and you have to wait until those beautiful purple flowers turn brown, then you can collect those seeds. This flower is visited by bees whose bodies can fit between the lower and upper lips in order to reach the nectar. But sweat bees are known to visit skullcap, but they're nectar robbers, and they'll pierce the base of the corolla to access the nectar. So we have little bees going around stealing nectar, which is kind of cute. I mean, they have to get to it somehow, unless it's in my nursery. Propagate from seed. If you have one and you let it go to seed, you'll have a bunch of those coming up, and it's a really pretty little flower, and it comes back year after year. It's a beautiful little perennial. Privet Senna. Oh, I love this one. This is the native Senna ligostrina. There's another native out there, and it's Chapman's Senna. And I guess that one, they're both available in native nurseries. The ligostrina blooms early. It blooms early summer, and then it stops. So the butterflies take advantage of it at that time. It attracts mostly sulfur butterflies. And that's an orange-barred sulfur caterpillar that was on one of my plants, eating its little full. It was really cute. They're so pretty. Next year in host plants and bees. I saw lots of different kinds of bees on it this year. I had a lot more time to spend in the nursery, so I got to go out there and harass all the bees and insects and walk around and try and get pictures of them. But it was fun. It was fun. Grows readily from seed if you want to try and plant it. But you have to wait for the seed pods to get really nice and brown. And then when they start to pop open, you can collect them and put them somewhere else, or you can put them in an open container. I keep my seeds in the house up on a shelf in the laundry room where it's warm enough and it doesn't get too cold. And I know people who keep their seeds in jars closed up tight in the refrigerator. You can research it and determine which way you would like to do it. I believe in keeping them opened with the air that can get at them. I think it works better. and my germination rate is really high when I do when I plant them. So that's the way I do it. But if you want to, check it, see if you can get them to grow in a different way. And if you do, let me know if it's easier, and I'll do it. That's for sure. Rosinweed. Rosinweed is absolutely beautiful. The leaves are really rough. They have little hairs on them, so that's how mostly you can tell when it's rosinweed. Florida has 2 species, the Starry Rosinweed, and it blooms for a long period of time. There's one in my nursery that's been like 3 weeks. The flower hasn't gone down yet, which is fantastic. And big leaf rosinweed, I didn't put a picture of it. The flower is pretty much the same, just bigger. So I didn't put that one in there. The big leaf is not widely available at nurseries, though. Starry rosinweed, you can get at any native nursery. They have them. Or you can propagate it by seed if you find a friend who has some, and you can get some seeds from them. Those are the kind of seeds you want to share, not the Mexican petunia ones. Don't want to do that. Goldenrod. Goldenrod is awesome. And as you see that picture down there that says ragweed, that is the one that triggers your allergies. It's not the goldenrod that comes out and blooms. That really doesn't have too much. There's only one, I think, that has a really nice scent to it. The top picture is the Chapman's. It's absolutely beautiful. When they bloom, they're in mass, and it's just so pretty. The bottom one is wand goldenrod that I grow, and that is a polka dot wasp moth, I think, and that was one of my pictures. I was really pleased with that one. Everyone said, moths don't come out during the day. Yes, they do. Surprise. These plants are very showy. And if you have an area you can put them into, just please plant them. And they'll come back year after year and just reward you with these beautiful flowers. They like zones 8A through 11A, depending on the species. So you have to know which species it is that you're getting. And you can propagate them from seed. I just did that for the first time this season, and they're coming up and they're beautiful. Asters. There's 26 species of asters native to Florida. Many of them are well suited for use in landscapes, like these two, the climbing aster and the Elliott's aster. And they're 2 late bloomers. They'll bloom at the end of September into October and November. So it gives the bees that are out there and the other pollinators a chance to collect some nectar. The zones are pretty much the same. But if you look at any other species of the asters, you want to make sure that it's one for your area. You can't take the climbing aster and plant it too far north, otherwise it won't survive. They grow in ditches. When you're driving around in the fall and into the winter and you look at the side of the road and you see all these beautiful little purplish flowers, those are pretty much all asters, and they're just absolutely gorgeous, really pretty. I think that might be the end of my pictures, my pretty pictures. But now some information on where you can find those beautiful plants. The first one is very important, FANN.org. That's the Florida Association of Native Nurseries. You can find the nursery in your area. I know there are native plant people out there who would drive for hours if it's a certain plant that they want. But I always say if you're driving hours to go and buy it somewhere else, it might mean it's not supposed to be in your zone. So you might want to check that out first. The next one is the FNPS.org, which is the Florida Native Plant Society. A wealth of information you can get from them. You can get information on your particular area for a plant list of what natives will grow there. And don't print it. Don't just hit print, because I think the last time I did, it was like 11 pages. Just kept spitting out of the printer. And my husband was not too happy with that. So you always have to make sure what you're getting. Just go through the list. It'll show you what's a shrub and what's a wildflower and what's a tree. So you'll be able to pick what you want. And the next one is the FloridaWildflowers.com. That's where you'll get your seeds. You want to make sure your seeds are from a Florida source. It's very important, because if you get seeds from up north, they may not make it here. It's like if you have a maple tree up north and you say, well, I'm going to take it down there because it'll grow there. No, it won't, because it's used to getting that surge of cold in the winter. The ones down here aren't, so it's not really going to do well for you. And I don't know about anyone out there, but if I did something like that and a tree died, I would be hysterical crying. And my little praying mantis wants to know if anyone has any questions.
Okay, Rita, that was great. I guess, Teresa, if you can go ahead and stop the screen sharing there, that'd be great. Teresa's our helper with the technology today.
Because Rita doesn't know how to do it.
That's okay. We're all still learning it. So just takes a little bit of practice and a couple little mistakes. So hopefully everybody will bear with us. But we do have a couple questions on here. Let's see. Lily shared that Rita knows natives, which I agree with. Rita is our resident native plant expert here. So here is a very good question from Wendy Friday, one of our regular followers. What one or two wildflowers do you think are best for beginners to have success with?
Well, I think some milkweed would be very good. Probably the tuberosa. I think that would be the easiest one. And some sage, the tropical sage. That way you'd have butterflies and hummingbirds coming into your area.
I know the tropical sage with the red flowers is very easy to grow, and it really does drop a lot of seeds. Over time, you will have dozens, if not hundreds, of little seedlings coming up in the pot or in your garden, which is great. You don't have to add more. You just start with a few, and they kind of take care of the rest all on their own.
I like saving money. So if you're spending your money, you want to make sure you get something that's going to work for you.
I'm cheap, so same thing for me.
Say that, but yeah, I'm cheap too.
That's okay. I am cheap. So any plants that are very easy to care for, extremely low maintenance, ones that are going to either be easy to propagate or they're going to spread and they're going to do better and better over time is definitely a bonus. And it is for a lot of people. So we have another question here from Geraldine about, can she get a written list of those wildflower names somehow?
Sure, I can make a list if I have a contact to get it to her, an email address, or I can give it to the extension office and they can forward it, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead and get in touch with our office and we'll get that information to you. So in case you're wondering how to get a hold of our office, let's see. Right here is our phone number, 352-754-4433. And if you call, chances are Teresa is going to be the one answering the phone. Mm-hmm. And she's more than happy to help you out if you need to.
I'd be more than happy to private message that list to her.
Okay. Well, that comment is probably on our Facebook page. So if you can go ahead and put a comment or a question or something on our Facebook page, Rita can check on that later on.
Sure.
And get back in touch with you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if we have any other questions. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and share them in the comments right now, and we'll go ahead and show them. Got a lot of really good positive feedback here. What great information. I love this presentation. So
thank you.
And a couple more. We'll just share a couple more little compliments here, the really good ones.
No, all of them.
And here's one. Jacqueline has swamp milkweed in a wet area by my north central Florida lake, and it's not doing well. Any suggestions?
Which swamp milkweed? Because swamp milkweed is the common name for a lot of them. If it's the rose milkweed, it's probably getting too much water. And if it's the perennis, those flowers are white, so it should be fine. I'm not really sure what the problem would be.
Yeah, I know that we did a school project once before and tried putting in 2 different species of swamp milkweed, and it's a very high dry location, and they died very quickly.
Yeah,
So
they
you
will.
have to have legitimately wet soil. But if you do have a wet spot or a low spot in your yard and it's always wet and you can't figure out what to plant, what's going to do well there, bald cypress and swamp milkweeds are probably going to be some pretty good choices for those spots.
Yes.
Let's see if we have any other questions here. Can you make a PDF of this available, as is done with some of the other presentations? If you leave your PowerPoint behind, we'll go ahead and make it into a PDF to be able to share with people.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Bob, go ahead and contact the office or contact us directly through Facebook. So we will have that available a little bit later on today. And then here's a question for Rita. Where can we find your nursery?
It's in Brooksville, and it is, I can give you my address if you want that. I'd rather not do that right out over the...
That's understandable.
Yeah. Contact the extension office, and they'll get you my address.
Yeah, just call the office and ask for Teresa, and she'll take care of it. Okay, here's an interesting question about planting beautyberry and milkweeds close together. Do you think birds will eat the monarch caterpillars?
Yes, they will. They absolutely will. Lizards will eat the caterpillars. Ants eat the little just laid eggs. So predation is always a problem. The beautyberry spreads out a lot. So it might take up some of the sun that the milkweeds would need. But I wouldn't plant them too close together. Personally, I wouldn't.
Something else that if you're trying to encourage or raise monarch caterpillars that will feed on them is wasps. And people can have a problem where if you're raising an unnaturally large number of caterpillars outdoors in your yard, your population of wasps is naturally going to go up to kind of balance that out.
Yeah.
And wasps will unfortunately carry your caterpillars away, not to be seen again. So wasps could be a problem. Now, we don't want people to go out there and start spraying or getting rid of the wasps.
No.
It's going to damage your caterpillars. It's going to damage everything in your yard. It's just if you're raising them, you can encourage them, but you're going to hit kind of a maximum. Your yard has a maximum carrying load of caterpillars. And when you go above that, unusual things happen, like you're going to have a lot of wasps.
They absolutely do. I know a lot of people keep putting in more and more milkweed as the caterpillars eat it. The problem with that is that you're never going to have enough milkweed in your garden for all the eggs that the butterflies are going to lay. So it's a cycle. You have to stop at some point and say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore, and whatever is out there now is going to survive, and that's about it. It's very sad sometimes to say that, but I learned it the hard way. I kept planting more and more, and then said, wait a minute, the butterflies don't know that there's a limited supply of this. So you have to think about that too.
So here's another good question. How long do seeds last if stored?
It depends on the seed, and it depends on how they're stored. Some people, like I said, put them in the refrigerator. I keep mine in a big box, and they're all opened containers, and they're all labeled with what the seeds are. And I've planted seeds that are probably 2 years old, and I still get a really good germination rate on it. So it all depends on the seeds. There are some that have to be refrigerated and have to have that cold period before you can plant them. So it's the seed. It's whatever the plant is. You need to look up what its needs are on the internet or whatever. I know mine because I've been working with them for so long. So if it's a tropical sage, you can keep those almost forever and then plant them and they will come up. But certain ones won't.
Okay. Well, we have a question from a nice lady, Lily Browning, about is it a good time to plant wildflowers?
Well, sure. You can plant those anytime. You really can. Now would have been a good time because they would have been getting water every day and you wouldn't have had to water them. pretty much any time.
Okay, and here's another pretty specific question for you. Do you have any recommendations about native passion flowers best to grow in the Hernando County area?
You want to grow Passiflora incarnata, which is the native with the big purple flower. You want to plant another one that's Passiflora lutea or Passiflora tuberosa. There's 3 species that you can plant. You don't want to put in the red one because the red one is higher in toxins than the purple ones are. And sometimes the butterflies can't tell the difference. So they'll lay their eggs on it. The eggs hatch out, the caterpillars start eating, and they die. So you want to make sure you have the native ones in your yard. One is also called, common names would be maypop. And one of them is corky stem passion vine. They're really easy to find if you look them up online. And those are the ones you want to use. And the maypop, which is the Passiflora incarnata, it's a vine, and so it will grow everywhere. We usually say that it's pioneering. It's not invasive because it's a native, so this one is just pioneering. And it gets all brown in the winter. If it gets too cold, it turns brown. So if you put it on, if you put it near a walkway or on a fence, you're going to have all that brown stuff all over that fence that you're going to have to clean off. So you want to be very careful where you put it. I've done that from personal use. I put it where it shouldn't have gone, and there's no stopping it now. If you want any other information, you can always send me an email. I have a group that you could look up. It's called Central Florida Native Plants. And I have a whole bunch of people who have joined, and we post pictures together. And it's just a native plant site. It's not to ask questions about anything else, and certainly no politics. So that's all we want there, just fun stuff and plants.
Okay. And Debbie says she's been busy removing a swarm of bees, so she missed most of the presentation. Is this recorded so I can watch the whole presentation? Yes, it is. The nice thing about Facebook Live is all these presentations, whether you're watching this on Facebook, on our office Facebook page, our private gardening Facebook group, or on YouTube Live, it's always saved as a video, and you can go back and watch it later on tonight, tomorrow. You can watch it over and over again as many times as you like to get all the information. So that's why we kind of like this platform, is because it makes it really, really simple. It's automatically saved, closed caption, and then anybody who missed it, it's freely available for them. So we just want that many more people to be able to watch it. And then I think you mentioned earlier, it's the rose swamp milkweed.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one that was getting too much water. Is that it?
I think so, probably.
There's really no explanation.
Yeah, she's the one where it's not doing well because it's in a wet area by my north central Florida lake.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what could be happening with it. I know the other one, the white flowered one, really likes to be almost sitting in water. And I find that the rose swamp, it will take some dry. So maybe it's getting, I don't know if it could get too much water. Swamp, calling it swamp milkweed is kind of silly because I don't think it really needs to be in a swampy area. That's me personally saying that. I could be wrong, but I find that if I give it too much water in the nursery, it turns yellow. The bottom leaves all start to turn yellow. So I think it may be getting too much. You may want to yank some of it out and plant it a little further back where it's not going to be sitting in water.
Okay, we just have maybe 2 more questions here. Are there any Florida native echinacea that you recommend?
No, I don't think so. Purple cone flowers. are a favorite, and the flowers last for a really long time. And you can have all little colonies of things living on your coneflowers. I had one that had a green lynx spider living on top of it. And if a bee came close, the spider would get under the flower and the bee would land and the spider would come out and catch the bee. It was pretty interesting. And I actually got a picture of it. I didn't get a picture of the green lynx killing one of the butterflies, though, because I draw the line at that. I just thought that was the saddest thing, but that's nature. So there's no picture of that anywhere. But yes, the purple coneflowers would be a great addition.
Okay, and final question about that Central Florida native plants. Is that a Facebook group?
It is a Facebook group, and all you have to do is request to join. Go onto it and request to join, and I will approve you.
Okay, that sounds great. I think that's about all of our questions, and about 45 minutes in, which is a really good amount of time. So thank you very much, Rita. This was really great. If anybody really enjoyed this, please go ahead and like it and put down some positive comments and help me talk Rita into coming back here again and talking about a little bit more about native plants, because like I said, she really is our master gardener expert on that topic. And we've been trying to bring Gary Gethin in here to talk about orchids and other master gardener specialists to come in here to keep people educated, so you don't have to listen to me all the time. You get a little bit of variety here. So I see a whole bunch of thank yous there from everybody. So Rita, thank you very much. That was really great. Okay, we will see you all again really soon. See you later. Take care.
Bye.